Hello everyone and welcome. This is part 2 of my wedding DIYs redo. If you didn't see part 1, I encourage you to watch it. I will put the link in the description below. It's also in the cards. But in that part 1 video, I went over some of the DIYs I did for my wedding, which was 4 years ago, over 4 years ago now. And in this video, I'm going to show you some of the things that I redid as an experiment to see how much I've improved since then and to show beginner level of doing these things versus working on them and improving yourself over the years and making something better 4 years later. So again, last week's video was more of a showing you what I did, and I'm going to review some of that as I go. And this video this week is going to be more of a showing you the things that I redid 4 years later. So I have basically 4 projects in this video that I can show you of things that I did. So let's get started. So one of the things I mentioned last week was that I had a table set up at the wedding, and I had a table set up where people could drop their cards that they gave us, could sign a guest book that I made, and another activity was we had this bucket list thing where people could write down something we could add to our bucket list, me and my husband, things to do while we're married. But anyway, I had all of these 3 things on a table together. What I didn't have was instructions to let people know that what they could do. Like some of it was kind of self-explanatory. Most people got everything, but there were a couple people that asked me specifically, like for instance with the guest book, like, can I write in this book? And I had pens next to it, so I thought, again, it would be self-explanatory because I was originally going to make a sign for it, and then I kind of got to the point where it was getting to be crunch time and I didn't have time to really do a lot of things. So I just put that, like I had it on the list originally, and then I'm like, never mind, I don't need that. People understand that they can sign this. Obviously, I was wrong. So this year I made a sign that would have encompassed all those things that I could have put on the table to have made it easier for everyone. And this is how it turned out. I'll tell you also that I did kind of rush through this because, again, these projects I had for this video, I had them planned out and what I was going to do and when I was going to do them. And then all this stuff started happening the last few weeks, so I kind of got off track. And I've been rushing, pardon the pun, rushing through these things. So I could have even done this better. It is an improvement as opposed to nothing, which I had. But even if I had made this 4 years ago, it wouldn't have looked this good. I'm not saying this is perfect. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not because I rushed through it. But it's way better than nothing, and it's way better than it would have looked back then. The only complaint I have really is the block lettering parts of the sign where it says a place for your and please sign our and help us build our. Yeah, those, I did them on the fly. I didn't make any guidelines. You know, I didn't even center them correctly. I was doing it in my head as I was going. So you'll actually see me, if you look at, when I show you the video, it'll show me kind of counting out, oh, how many letters, so, which is something I do. You'll see me do this on the channel. But yeah, I did it on the fly, so that's why it didn't turn out, perfect. Not that it has to be perfect, but it still turned out pretty well. And it's, again, way better than I could have done back then. And maybe if I do this again next year, I'll decide to improve it a little more. We'll see. But anyway, here is a time lapse of me making it. I did release this as a short as well on this channel, so you may have already seen this. And I'm just using a chalkboard, chalk markers, and chalk to make the guidelines that I made originally. Not for the block lettering, but for everything else. And then I outlined the pink lettering on the top and the bottom with white because it was a little hard to read. Okay, another thing I did was these table numbers. So this is what I did. I'm going to show you what I did 4 years ago at the wedding, not what I did recently. So this is what I had at the wedding for table numbers. It's the best picture I could get because we didn't really specifically take a picture of this. But what I did for this is basically I had recently, at the time, bought a Cricut maker. I had upgraded my Cricut, even though I still have the old one too, because I could cut thicker materials with it with a knife blade. That's why I got it. And so I cut these numbers out in chipboard. So I had 1 through 9 because I had 9 tables. And then I cut out paper, blue and like a pink rose goldish, which were our colors, paper, and put them, on either side of the number. And that was my table number. And it worked fine. I just originally wanted to do something a little different, which is what I kind of showed in what I did now. Again, you'll see video of me making this, but I'll explain it real quick. So this is glass. It's a piece of glass from like a picture frame. It's a 5x7 piece of glass. And I used paint markers, oil-based, to create both the lettering of O-N-E and the 1 on the other side, the blue one. So what I did here, and you'll see this in the video, is I painted the lettering for O-N-E, and then I made sure that was dry. And then I traced the entire piece of glass onto a piece of paper, like the size I needed. And then I made a number 1. Now I could have used like graph paper to make sure it was kind of proportional the way it's supposed to be. It's what I should have done. And if I was actually doing this, this is what I would have done. Or I would have, had a font number 1 and then traced that or something. That's what I would have done if I was doing this professionally. But since I was rushing through this again, I just created a number 1 on this piece of paper. And so then the problem was I wanted the 1 on the other side of the glass. So what I needed to do was basically flip it over so I could make it backwards. So instead of tracing it backwards, like on the paper, what I did was I went and got a light pad and then put the paper upside down on top of it, and then put my glass sheet where I put the table number on there, where I put the O-N-E on there, and put that on top of the paper with the backwards 1 on it. And then I painted a backwards 1 on the other side of the glass. I forgot to mention it's the other side of the glass again. So the O-N-E lettering was face down on top of the paper, which was also face down. It was upside down. So that I would be tracing the number 1 backwards then, so that when you turn it back over, both the O-N-E and the 1 are the right way. But the blue 1, the numeral, was on the back side of the glass rather than on the front side. And you can see in the corner there are a few circles with some names on them. So that's what I'm going to be talking about next, actually. So these are place cards that I made that I originally was going to do something like this for the wedding, and in conjunction with a seating chart, which is the last project we're going to look at. So I was originally going to do place cards and a seating chart, and what I ended up doing for the wedding was I made escort cards instead, because I was having some complications and again running out of time, so there's no way I would have been able to finish what I wanted to do. So I ended up making escort cards instead. And how I did that was I did the lettering. So this is an example. I did crop this a little bit. It said the Hoffman family, and then it had like 3 names for the people that were in this specific Hoffman family. I cropped that out, again, to protect people's identities, and I don't have their consent to have them, on the internet or whatever, so I don't put them. But just to show, so I made this lettering, and for all of the escort cards I made in Procreate, did the lettering myself, and then I saved them all as PNGs, brought them into Cricut Design Space, and basically did a with the pen holder in the Cricut, had the pen write out my lettering on the paper and then have it cut out right away. And I did that for convenience and time. It's not something I wanted to do at the time. I knew of the complications with the Cricut in doing this, which still exists today, by the way. But this project specifically was done like right before the wedding, not like hours, but like days before the wedding, because I had changed my mind and didn't have enough time to do what I wanted to do. You can see, and this is probably something you recognize if you've seen people use the Cricut to write things. And it depends on the pen you use. There's all kinds of different problems that go along with that. That's actually something I'm probably going to talk about sometime at this on this channel, is using the pen in Cricut. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I kind of know why. I didn't just, cut out the cards and write them myself. I think I was just worried that I was going to mess so many of them up. So I'll just have the Cricut do it, because I don't want to mess anything up at this point, and I don't have time to, deal with mistakes or whatever, even though the Cricut made mistakes. But, so I just had the Cricut do it. I did do the actual lettering for like the names myself, and then brought that into Cricut instead of using a font. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is the way I just decided to do it. I was kind of at this point kind of like, like I was letting go of a lot of expectations. Like, this isn't going to show out the way I wanted it to, so I'm just going to do it. So, again, this is how it turned out. So this is an example. Now, the smudged parts, the like light blue smudged parts that you see on this picture are because I smudged out some of the names before I uploaded this picture. Because again, I'm hiding identities here. But there is some smudging there that the Cricut did itself, as well as you see it's like an outline rather than a filled in, and that's because the Cricut pens don't. It's one of the problems with using a Cricut to do like writing on anything. There are workarounds. To me, they're too much of a pain. I'd rather just do it myself. But in the end, I didn't really care about the result because I just did it this way anyway. But so a lot of a common problem you see with using a Cricut and a pen in a Cricut is that it will make the letters all outlined like this. And I could have came back in and filled in the outline at least to make it that solid. And I don't know why I didn't do that. I probably had enough time to do that. I don't know. I think I gave up at that point, basically. So anyway, this is how it turned out. I wasn't really happy with it. This is one of the things, though, that a few people I know really liked at the wedding because they thought it was something like special and I was kind of like, okay. Like I could have done a better job. In fact, I was doing a better job until I ran out of time and whatnot. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But okay, if you like it, I'm glad you like it. So this is what I actually ended up having. Now, what I wanted to do, and this is what I did in this video, is I wanted to do a seating chart with place cards instead. So place cards are at the actual tables at the wedding, and then the seating chart would tell people which table they're at. Whereas what I did 4 years ago at the wedding was I did escort cards, and that's why the card has the name and the table. And then you grab that and you're like, okay, I'm at this table, and then you find the table number, okay, But so I originally started on making place cards for the tables. Now, here is an example of what I was doing and kind of one of the problems I was running into. So this was an acrylic piece of, a rectangle, and I was just putting people's first names on them, and I'm just using more common names that were at my wedding that don't have a last name or anything like that. That's why I'm not blurring anything out here. So I did these in like a paint pen, and the problem here is that one, I wasn't really used to using paint pens that much. So I had some beginner issues with it. Two, the paint pens themselves were kind of like a cheap brand, like off brand that I had never really heard of, but I just bought them I'll just use these. And so this is the kind of result you get from doing something like that. Depends on, I'm not saying all cheap brands are bad, but not only were they cheap, but I also was inexperienced in using them, period, at the time. So I was getting a lot of, messes like this where everything gets kind of smudged, and then I was trying to fix them with acetone, which, by the way, you're not supposed to use on acrylic because it will mess up the acrylic. And I didn't know that at the time. So I was trying to clean them with acetone, and then it was getting even more messed up. And we'll talk about that when I talk about acrylic in a different video. But anyway, so this is the problems I was running into, and I wasn't sure about the color I wanted to make them, and I was trying to do an outline on this one with white, and it was just, I was running into all sorts of problems. Well, I did try a different color, so I got a few better versions here. So this is another one that I did in a dark blue, and I got another one. And you see that these are, much better, but getting all of the names to look this well was an ordeal. And I was getting frustrated, and then I still, on top of this, would have to make a seating chart of some sort. And that's when I started no, I don't think I'm going to have enough time to do this. So then I started pivoting towards doing the escort cards instead. But this is what I, tried to do for my wedding 4 years ago. This time I made these bigger circles, and I made them with a last name as well. And did I mention this yet? So for this project, I used names that were randomly generated. And for the seating chart that you're going to see in a minute. So I took all of the guests that I had at my actual wedding, like the number that I had and the actual guests, and I made random names for each one, but I kept the same number, like I said, and I kept the same last names, even though they were different last names, different from what they were, different from their actual last name, but I kept the same number of last names, if that makes sense. So they weren't totally random. Sometimes I just do a random first name with a last name that I already had. But for this project, though, I decided to do all different last names. I picked a bunch of the names that had different last names on my list of people that I eventually did the seating chart for. And I put them all, as examples for making these place cards so that there would be a little variety in what I do. So originally I was going to do one of the tables, but a lot of the tables had the same last name. So I did 8 of them, as you see. And there isn't much to say about this. It's an acrylic circular blank that I got, and I used, for the purposes of this, I used water-based paint markers. But that's because I'm just going to wipe it away and use them again for teaching something else or whatever. But if I was doing it for the actual wedding, I would have used oil-based so that people could take them home and keep them and they wouldn't wipe away, because that was kind of part of their favor for the wedding. But anyway, so then you will see the process of me making these. So what I did was I traced a circle over and over again on a piece of paper, and I could fit 4 on a piece of paper, regular paper. And then I just kind of penciled in what I wanted to do as far as the flourishing for the names within that circle on the paper, and then I traced it with a paint pen through the acrylic. So that's what I did for that. And again, I did these very quickly, and I probably could have done a better job on these as well. But for the most part, they turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with them. And then finally, for the last project here is the seating chart. Now this project, I'm going to be doing a full tutorial on next week. We're going to get to that in the sneak peeks. Next week, I'm doing a full tutorial on this project as I made it. I'm just going to show a sped up time lapse of me making it, and I'll kind of just go over briefly what I did. So again, I took all of my guest names from my wedding, and I did a random name generator, kept some of the same last names for them, and then modeled them after the actual tables at my wedding. There were 9 tables. Technically, they all had 10 seats, even though at the wedding, I think I only had 1 table that had actually 10 seats. The rest of them had less. In fact, one of my tables was only planned to have 7, and then that one of that part of that family that was at that table ended up having to cancel at the last minute because their little boy was sick. So ended up only having 4 people at that table when they were supposed to have 7. But 4 people out of 10, so it was kind of lopsided. But luckily, the 4 people that were at that table were very happy to have a table of their own. Not that they wouldn't have not liked the other family to be there too, but they quite enjoyed being on their own, so it worked out. But again, this is what it would have looked like at the wedding anyway, because I had no idea those people weren't coming until literally hours before the wedding, even though my wedding was in the morning. I had woken up very early in the morning and got a message from these people and said that their boy was sick and they wouldn't be able to come, which again was fine. I'm glad they warned me. And I'm going to go, again, over more of this next week in next week's video, but I'll just say briefly that the overall design plan, the layout plan was, so I had 9 tables and I figured 3 by 3. As far as the alignment of the names within the tables, I decided to do, so everything that was on the 3 tables that are on the left side there, 1, 4, and 7, are all aligned right, so they're towards the center. And then the ones in the center are centered. And then the ones on the right are left aligned, so they're towards the center as well. That's the way I decided to do it. I could have done it a number of ways. I could have made them all centered. I could have made them all right aligned, left aligned. I could have made them kind of the opposite, where the left was left aligned, and then there'd be like spaces, and then center, and then spaces, and then right aligned. I could have done that, but I decided to try it this way, and I do like the way it turned out. And I used oil-based paint markers on a mirror for this, if that's not obvious. And again, we're going to go over this more in next week's video, so I'm going to shut up about it for now. All right, everyone. That is going to do it for this week's video. Stay tuned until the very end. I've got some bonus footage and sneak peeks for you. But first, I want to thank you, yes you, for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you found it to be helpful, use those buttons. If you want to see more, you can follow Shrush Design on social media. The links are all in the description. And if you would like to browse my online shops, I have 2 Etsy shops and a Fiverr account, also listed below. If you are local to southeastern Wisconsin, I have even more services available, so you'll want to check out my website for that information. But wait, there's more! If you happen to be planning a wedding in the near future, I have another YouTube channel called Shrush Design Weddings, through which I discuss all of the choices you'll have while planning your wedding. And I also have another channel called Poised Pencraft, through which I teach the art of lettering, calligraphy, and some graphic design skills if you want to learn how to create your own designs from scratch and make each project truly your own. Links for both of those channels are, you guessed it, in the description. So if you're all subscribed now and ready for next week's video, I'll see you then. For now though, I'll leave you with the bonus footage and sneak peeks. Enjoy! For bonus footage this week, I actually didn't have really anything to give you this week for bonus footage, at least not related to these projects. Assistant Chaz didn't even interrupt me at all. Can you believe that? So what I'm going to do instead is show you a short little clip of something that happened this past week that was kind of interesting. And I've shown you similar kind of things before, but they more had something to do with while I was filming for a video. This time I wasn't filming when this happened. But you've seen, again, if you've seen my channel and if you've seen some of the other bonus footage I sometimes show, because we get a lot of wildlife in the area, and while I'm doing projects on my windows, a lot of the times I'm interrupted by deer or turkeys or, you know, other than Assistant Chaz, I'm interrupted by wildlife sometimes. Well, again, I wasn't filming for this channel when I did it. I ended up taking some video though. We ended up having a turkey fight happen on our property. And this is the second time it's happened on our property. It happened also 3 years ago, well, 2.5 years ago now. Twice it happened to us. And I haven't ever seen this happen other than at our house, although I'm sure it does. So I'm going to show you footage from both times it happened. The first time, actually, our video doorbell caught it. We had just ordered a pizza, like literally, like a minute before we were notified. And our doorbell went off and we're like, that can't be the pizza already. And we look outside and it's turkeys fighting on our doorstep. And we're like, okay. And then it continued on the side of the house for a while. And they eventually like got tired and wandered off into the neighbor's yard. And then the one that happened recently, we had just finished shoveling a bunch of snow that came on our actual anniversary, which is what happens if you get married in the winter in Wisconsin. You'll probably end up shoveling snow on your anniversary. But we did that. We had just gotten a bunch of snow the night before, so we shoveled a bunch of snow. And then, because this actually happened on our actual anniversary, I guess that's why it ties in. But, the driveway was all clear, the sidewalk around us. So we had noticed after we came back in the house that there were turkeys in the yard, and we were kind of joking around like, oh, we just shoveled. They think they can, relax here. Because the one turkey that we saw was kind of laying down, like sat down, like right on our path, our sidewalk that goes like from our driveway to our back door, I guess. And we thought that was interesting. I didn't actually take any footage of that part, but then had thought nothing of it, walked back like towards, we were already in the house, but where we couldn't see them anymore. And all of a sudden I hear like banging outside, like something like sounds like it's smashing into the door, the back door and the windows in the three-season room. And I go out there to see what's going on. And it's a bunch of, it's these two turkeys and they started fighting. And I was like, oh, it's happening again. We have another turkey fight on our, why is it always us? Why do we have turkey fights on our property? So, yeah. And this one was more intense and it was also closer to the house. But they did move around a bit. And they stopped for a while and then they'd start again. But I think eventually they wandered off this time and stopped fighting. I don't know. And at first I wasn't sure either if it was two males fighting or if it was like a mating kind of thing. It probably was over, pecking order or whatever, if it was two males. But the only difference is too, the first time it happened, there was actually a third turkey that was kind of like watching out for the cops. like the other two were fighting and this other one was like the lookout, like would let them know if the cops were coming after them, Kind of funny. But this time it was only the two turkeys. So anyway, I thought maybe you might enjoy this. So this is the bonus footage this week.
Welcome to our life, people. Oh, there's a third.
Oh no, there's another one. Jazzy, what do you think of this?
I'm not getting good. It's gonna have to be you. I think mine is I'm not getting good. Jesse's just like, what is going on? Why are they fighting?
Jesse's like, I do that to my sister.
I do like how
this one's just waiting.
I like how the third one's like the lookout, like wait, like yet? If the cops show up, he's gonna be like, break it up. It's like Mortal Kombat over here.
Finish him. How long is this gonna go on?
I don't know. I'm going at it for a while. They're dedicated, I'll give them that. Like, I've been going at this for a while.
Yeah, my video is almost 4 minutes already.
Yeah.
Are we done?
that one's like, I'm done with this. The other one's like, no, you ain't.
That one's running away. I think they're done. Oh, the guy's got his tail out.
Well, that's it for tonight's fight. We'll let you know when the next pay-per-view is.
And we're making money off this?
I did.
And yeah, the turkeys. They're smacking each other into the door over here. Why is it always our house?
Find somewhere else. Does he literally have that other one's mouth in his mouth? Is that what's happening there? He does!
Nope, they're still fighting. Can't see them anymore. Hey, careful over there. Jazzy, you don't want to go out there. What are you doing? It's like, I don't want part of this. Come here. You're going back inside. Alright, looks like they're moving to the front yard. Yeah, they moved over here. Oh, maybe they moved back because I don't see them anymore. Oh my god. Hey. He's definitely more intense than last time. They're like all up on the containers, like I don't know if this is mating or fighting.
You only get the best content here at our house. This turkey's had its mouth shoved in this other turkey's mouth for a couple minutes now.
Well, they did separate for a bit.
Are they stuck?
We never did this before.
It's like one stuck in the other and they're trying to get... Hey, where are you? Where is he?
I don't think he snuck out.
I heard him.
Look on the other side. He's probably around the building if he's outside. Oh, you going that way again, huh? Into that bush, like last time. They're coming for you, turkeys, the ambulance.
The law's on its way.
Someone called the police.
This turkey are fighting. I was backing him out again. So weird. No.
Are you done?
I got him.
You done now? You notice you have people watching you? Like we just shoveled the snow so they could have like a...
Yeah, so they could have a fight over here. They're just gonna wander off.
That's what they did last time. It's exactly the same. Okay, I think they're done. It's not done. It started again. And then for sneak peeks, so the first thing I'll say is thank you for being patient. I know I give these sneak peeks every week and I try to stick to my schedule. The last 2 weeks were a little... had some unplanned things happen, including me getting sick, and I wasn't able to do the things that I wanted to, like I had a schedule going, and I wasn't able to do things on my schedule, so I ended up falling behind. Now also, I mean, on top of that, I would like to get ahead where I'm not doing this week by week, and there has been times where I have, and including now, because I have the seating chart done that I'm getting to, but it's not always going to go 100% the way I say it is in the sneak peeks. I try to keep to it as much as possible. However, sometimes I just can't. And that's the reason why a lot of people don't do this, where they're like, oh, next week this is going to happen, because, you know, things come up. But I want to try to give people, like, this is what's coming up on the channel. If you're interested in it, make sure that you subscribe or you pay attention or you wait for this video that's coming out that you want to see. So that's why I do it. I try to keep to my schedule, like I said. Sometimes I just can't. And I end up sometimes switching videos around, which is something I did this week. Or things get delayed. Like this video was supposed to come out Wednesday on the 1st, and it didn't come out on time. So anyway, that's that. So I'm going to start putting, because it wasn't, you know, I was kind of assuming people would understand this, but I haven't gotten any like hateful messages on it or anything, but I'm just going to start saying, you know, it's subject to change, because it's not always exactly the way it's supposed to be. So I will start putting that in there and start putting in a little disclaimer, like sometimes this is what I have scheduled and it just doesn't work out that way. With that being said, so next week I am switching, because I originally had these next 2 weeks switched around. This next week on February 8th, and it should come out on time because the video is already filmed. I just need to put it together, finish putting it together. But this will be of the tutorial of the seating chart that you saw in this video. So the 15th, February 15th, is going to be the video that I said was supposed to be next week originally, which is the layout basics, the first in my layout basics series, which we're basically going to be talking about general layout principles and more specifically talking about how to make guidelines for certain types of things. So we're going to talk about some math, mainly a lot of geometry, and ways that you can do both small scale and large scale, making a design. And mostly what I do is signage. So that's what it's going to be based on, though you can apply it to different things. So that is what's coming out February 15th. Now, as of now, what I'm thinking of doing, I'm not sure, again, because it could change. I'm not sure if I'm going to follow through this or not. But right now, I'm thinking as for the main Wednesday videos, I'm going to take a break on February 22nd. So that's the next week after. There won't be a main video coming out. However, there will be smaller videos coming out in between, which is also something I'm not going to put on the schedule, but I have mentioned that I'm going to have some Procreate mini videos coming out that aren't really like the main long form videos that I put out every Wednesday. There'll be smaller videos coming out in between my main videos, and a lot of them will have to do with Procreate, but there'll be other ones as well. And if you've noticed, I've started to put out some clips from my longer videos throughout the week as well, and I still do shorts on this channel as well. So those will all be coming out that week. It's just the main Wednesday video. I'm planning right now to take a week off, and it's not a week off to rest, because I already had that. It's a week off to kind of get the rest of my crap together and try to get ahead more on the Wednesday videos, plus getting my other channels ready as well. Because I have those like planned out, I just haven't started actually making those videos yet. So I have to start doing that, getting those ahead as well. So that's what I'm planning to do that week, plus some other back office type stuff too. So that's my plan so far. And then next week I should have more of an idea of if I'm actually going to take that week off or not, as far as the Wednesday main video again. And then I'll have an idea beyond that what I'm going to do. Because I have a lot of ideas on the calendar, not on the calendar, on like a list. But I don't have them like in order of how I want to film them and whatnot. So I'm going to try to get that figured out by next week. So we'll have more of a, and if I think I can do it without taking a break or not. We'll see about that. So that's what I have planned so far. So next 2 weeks is seating chart, then layout, and the week after that is probably going to be a break from the Wednesday main videos. But there'll be other content going on the channel as well, in shorter form videos. So that's what I have. Again, thank you for your patience. I'm sorry that, I've been a little off schedule the last couple weeks. I'm trying to get back on schedule. And I guess that's it for this week. So I will see you next week with the seating chart tutorial. Bye.